On a cold November night in 2018, 28-year-old Ella Hartwell walked out of her apartment in the quiet town of Ashwick, Oregon, carrying only her phone, her car keys, and a sealed manila envelope. Security cameras captured her crossing the parking lot at exactly 9:17 p.m. She looked calm and completely unaware that she was being seen for the last time. 3 minutes later, a witness reported seeing her silver Honda Civic briefly stopped beside a dark-colored SUV near the edge of town. After that moment, Ella Hartwell vanished. No body was ever discovered. No confirmed sightings were ever verified. The envelope she carried that night was never found. Nearly 8 years later, investigators are still searching for answers. The case exposed hidden secrets, fractured friendships, and generated theories that continue to divide both detectives and the public. What happened to Ella Hartwell remains one of the most unsettling unsolved mysteries in Oregon history. Ashwick was the kind of place where residents rarely locked their doors. Nestled among dense forests and rolling hills about 40 miles outside Portland, the town had a reputation for being safe, quiet, and predictable. Serious crime was almost unheard of. That sense of security disappeared the moment Ella vanished. She worked as a financial analyst for a regional shipping company called Northwest Freight Solutions and had built a stable life for herself. She maintained close relationships with her parents and younger brother, enjoyed hiking local trails on weekends, and had recently started considering the possibility of buying her first home. To outsiders, everything about Ella's life appeared normal. But in the months leading up to her disappearance, subtle changes began attracting attention. Co-workers noticed she was spending more time at the office. Friends said she seemed distracted during conversations. One colleague later recalled seeing Ella printing stacks of documents late in the evening after most employees had already left for the day. Another remembered her locking paperwork inside a desk drawer before leaving work. At the time, nobody thought much about these incidents. Looking back, investigators would wonder whether these seemingly insignificant moments were actually warning signs. November 14, 2018, began like any ordinary Wednesday. Ella arrived at work shortly after 8 in the morning. Security records confirmed her entry into the building, and surveillance footage showed her moving through her normal routine. She attended meetings, responded to emails, and completed various tasks throughout the day. Nothing appeared unusual until late afternoon. At exactly 4:37 p.m., Ella received a phone call that lasted 11 minutes. The number belonged to a prepaid mobile phone purchased with cash several weeks earlier. Investigators would later spend years attempting to identify the caller, but their efforts produced no answers. Whatever was discussed during that conversation appeared to affect Ella significantly. At 6:15 p.m., Ella left work carrying a folder that several co-workers claimed they had never seen before. She drove home, ordered takeout from a local restaurant, and later spoke with her mother on the phone. During the evening, she exchanged multiple text messages with an unknown contact whose identity remains a mystery to this day. At 8:46 p.m., Ella placed one final phone call. The conversation lasted less than 2 minutes. Investigators were unable to determine who answered. 31 minutes later, she walked out of her apartment carrying the envelope and disappeared into the night. The next morning, when Ella failed to show up for work, nobody immediately panicked. Co-workers assumed she might be sick or dealing with a personal matter. As the day progressed and repeated attempts to contact her went unanswered, concern began to grow. Her phone went directly to voicemail. Text messages remained unread. Family members could not reach her. That evening, Ella's younger brother used a spare key to enter her apartment. What he found only deepened the mystery. Inside, everything appeared completely normal. Her purse sat on the kitchen counter. Her laptop remained open on a desk. There were no signs of forced entry, no evidence of a struggle, and nothing that suggested she had planned to leave for an extended period. A missing persons report was filed immediately. At first, police considered the possibility that Ella had chosen to leave voluntarily. That theory quickly began to unravel. 2 days later, search teams located her silver Honda Civic abandoned beside an isolated logging road approximately 12 miles outside Ashwick. The vehicle was locked and showed no signs of damage. There was no evidence of a collision or mechanical problem. Most importantly, there was no sign of Ella. Investigators found this detail particularly troubling. It suggested that Ella may have entered another vehicle or that environmental conditions had somehow disrupted the scent trail. Neither explanation could be confirmed. As search efforts expanded into the surrounding forests, investigators turned their attention toward Ella's personal and professional life. They examined phone records, financial accounts, emails, and digital devices. What they discovered would completely change the direction of the investigation. Hidden within encrypted folders on her laptop were dozens of spreadsheets, financial reports, and internal company documents. The files appeared to show irregular transactions involving Northwest Freight Solutions. Investigators suddenly found themselves considering a disturbing possibility. Had Ella uncovered something dangerous? As investigators dug deeper into Ella's digital records, another troubling discovery emerged. Just 6 days before her disappearance, she had accessed company files she had never viewed before. The records contained shipment manifests, financial transfers, and internal correspondence dating back nearly 3 years. While nothing appeared obviously criminal at first glance, forensic accountants noticed patterns that seemed highly unusual. Certain shipments existed on paper but appeared to have no physical destination. Large sums of money moved between companies that shared overlapping addresses. Some businesses listed in the records appeared to have no employees at all. Detectives soon learned that Ella had not been conducting this research as part of her assigned duties. This revelation raised a disturbing possibility. Had Ella accidentally uncovered something she was never supposed to find? The investigation intensified. Search warrants were executed. Financial records were subpoenaed. Investigators interviewed dozens of current and former employees connected to Northwest Freight Solutions. Yet despite months of effort, they found no evidence directly linking anyone at the company to Ella's disappearance. Then, nearly a year after she vanished, another witness came forward. The witness was a truck driver who frequently traveled through Ashwick. He claimed that on the night Ella disappeared, he had stopped at a gas station approximately 15 miles from where her vehicle was later discovered. While fueling his truck, he noticed a silver Honda Civic parked near the edge of the property. A woman matching Ella's description appeared to be speaking with 2 men standing beside a dark SUV. The witness described the conversation as tense. Nobody appeared to be arguing, but something about their body language seemed unusual. The woman crossed her arms repeatedly while one of the men kept glancing toward the road. After several minutes, the witness left. By the time investigators interviewed him months later, he could not provide detailed descriptions of the individuals involved. Surveillance footage from the gas station had long since been erased. As public interest grew, national media outlets began covering the case. Television programs featured extensive segments examining the mystery. Podcasts analyzed every known detail. One caller claimed Ella had secretly been working with federal authorities. Most of these claims could never be substantiated. But one tip attracted serious attention. An anonymous individual contacted investigators and claimed that Ella had been seen entering an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Portland approximately 2 weeks before she vanished. Detectives located the property and searched it extensively. Inside, they discovered evidence that the building had been used recently despite appearing abandoned from the outside. There were signs of recent activity, discarded food containers, and makeshift workstations. However, no fingerprints, DNA, or surveillance footage linked the location directly to Ella. Still, the discovery raised another question. What was she doing there? And who else had been using the warehouse? Investigators never found an answer. As years passed, the mystery only became more complicated. Friends who had once spoken confidently about Ella's life began questioning whether they truly knew her at all. Several admitted she had become increasingly secretive during the months before her disappearance. One friend recalled Ella canceling plans at the last minute multiple times. Another remembered seeing her become visibly uncomfortable whenever certain co-workers were mentioned. A former college roommate shared an especially unsettling memory. Approximately 1 month before vanishing, Ella had called her unexpectedly late at night. The conversation lasted less than 10 minutes. During the call, Ella sounded frightened. According to the roommate, Ella repeatedly asked a strange question. If someone wanted to disappear completely, how would they do it? At the time, the roommate assumed the question was hypothetical. After Ella vanished, the memory took on a far darker significance. Detectives attempted to determine whether Ella had been planning her own disappearance. They examined her finances, travel records, and online activity. They found no evidence she had withdrawn large amounts of cash. No airline tickets had been purchased. No alternate identities were discovered. In fact, everything pointed in the opposite direction. Just days before vanishing, Ella had renewed her apartment lease. She had scheduled future appointments. She had discussed holiday plans with family members. Nothing suggested someone preparing to leave forever. Then came one of the strangest developments in the entire case. In 2022, nearly 4 years after Ella disappeared, a retired hiker exploring a remote section of forest discovered a weather-damaged notebook hidden beneath fallen leaves. Inside were pages of handwritten notes. Some entries appeared unrelated. Others referenced financial transactions and company names that investigators immediately recognized from Ella's encrypted files. The handwriting was remarkably similar to hers. Forensic examiners spent months analyzing the notebook. Their conclusion was frustratingly inconclusive. While many characteristics matched Ella's writing style, they could not definitively confirm she had written the notes. The notebook generated headlines across the country. Once again, public interest surged. Once again, hopes rose that the mystery might finally be solved. And once again, those hopes faded. The notebook provided questions rather than answers. Years later, investigators remain divided about its significance. Some believe it represents the strongest evidence that Ella was actively investigating something dangerous. Others argue it could have been planted to mislead authorities. Even today, nobody knows for certain. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the case is how close investigators repeatedly came to potential breakthroughs. Time after time, evidence appeared just within reach before slipping away. Witnesses emerged only after memories had faded. For Ella's family, the uncertainty has been devastating. Without answers, there has been no closure. Birthdays pass. Holidays come and go. Years continue to accumulate. Yet the same questions remain. What happened after Ella left her apartment that night? Why was her vehicle abandoned on that isolated road? Who was waiting for her? And what was contained inside the missing envelope? Perhaps the envelope held evidence capable of exposing criminal activity. Perhaps it contained something entirely unrelated. Maybe it was the key to everything. Or maybe it was simply another piece of a puzzle that no one has managed to assemble. Today, investigators continue to review tips whenever new information emerges. The case remains officially open. Detectives insist they have not ruled out any major theory. Some believe Ella became the victim of a carefully planned crime. Others believe she uncovered information that placed her in danger. A few still argue that she orchestrated her own disappearance. The troubling reality is that every theory explains some parts of the mystery while failing to explain others. And until new evidence emerges, the truth remains hidden somewhere in the shadows of that cold November night. Maybe someone watching this video knows something they have never shared. Maybe a witness dismissed an important memory. Maybe a seemingly insignificant detail has been overlooked all these years. Because despite thousands of investigative hours, countless interviews, and years of searching, the central mystery remains exactly where it began. A woman walked out of her apartment carrying a sealed envelope. She entered the darkness. And she never came back. Somewhere, the final chapter of Ella Hartwell's story exists. But for now, it remains unwritten.